tonight's thought. Is it too much to ask to reinstate child labor? That seems to be the question that everybody's asking this week after Chick-Fil-A, the restaurant, wants to open up its own summer camp for kids 5 through 12. Everybody's screaming like, child labor, right? Yeah, no, I've got it right here. That the reason I'm interested in this is because I've been coaching summer camp this week. I've been teaching summer camp kids this week, and Chick-Fil-A wants to do the same thing, right? It's summertime, and the kids need to get out of the house. They need to do things, and the parents are putting them into right, like sports camps, and like I taught theater camps, and drama camps and karate camps and whatever you can think of camps. And right, Chick-fil-A, which is, like, if you don't know, probably America, I think at this point it is America's biggest fast food franchise. Here in Birmingham, Alabama, you cannot you can't throw a rock without hitting the beak of the Chick-fil-A mascot, which I think actually is a nose. It's a cow, right? Because the whole idea is that eat more chicken. The cows are kind of promoting Chick-fil-A because they don't get to get killed. The chickens do. So it's like this ongoing war of cows and chickens. But I digress. Yeah, Chick-fil-A wants to get into the summer camp game. So yeah, it says right here, they're charging $35 for controversial kids summer camp. Yay, child labor. So you would think, obviously, why is Chick-fil-A getting all of this scorn and vitriol? Well, number one, Chick-fil-A always gets scorn and vitriol, primarily because Chick-fil-A is very often identified by its politics. Chick-fil-A is a very Christian restaurant. As you know, if you've ever been out and been hungry for Chick-fil-A on a Sunday, they're all closed. I've known this for years, and yet I still get a craving for Chick-fil-A on Sunday. It's a brilliant marketing thing, really. It allows them to, have this reputation as being like this stand-up company that gives all their employees the holy day off, while at the same time, all of that respect, I suppose, converts into money from people who both like fast food and are Christian. But yeah, this is taking place in Louisiana. This is just a couple of doors down from where I live. Social media users are split on their thoughts. And it says here, Chick-fil-A in Louisiana is raising eyebrows for its popular new kids program. On June 5th, a franchisee in Hammond, Louisiana. All of these are franchised out. Chick-fil-A. I don't think that there are any that are actually owned and operated by the corporation itself. So it's just like the McDonald's model. They decided to have a Chick-fil-A summer camp. It says admission for the camp consists of 1 3-hour session with team leaders and is suggested for kids aged 5 to 12. The camp comes with a kids meal, a t-shirt, a name tag, and snack, and consists of various activities like spending some time with the Chick-fil-A cow and Chick-fil-A team leaders, as well as behind-the-scenes look at the inner workings of a franchise location. And people are, like, outraged by this. It seems. I even had a conversation with some people this week, some other camp counselors that I was working with, some of the camp directors, and they seem to be kind of split on it. They think that it's outrageous to be taking kids and putting them into this environment where they're paying for the privilege of bagging people's food and giving it out the window to hungry motorists. And I have to say, like, I don't get it. I don't understand why people are interpreting this this summer camp as something like child labor. Child labor. We're talking about 3 hours in the morning. The kids come in, they get a free Chick-Fil-A meal, a T-shirt, a name tag with their name on it. They're not going into a hot furnace at a steel mill and picking up ingots with their bare hands and putting them in buckets for 5 cents a week. This is like, let's slow down a little bit. I think this is at the point. This is going to be the story of the summer. You know, every summer there's always one big story that is very incidental, that has really nothing to do with anything, but people just like build it up and build it up and build it up across social media. And they love to get so angry and upset about it. It's a big talking point for about 1 week, and then it's gone, right? And so that's why I'm talking about it this week, because I need to get followers and people to listen to me, to my what seems like a very unpopular opinion. I think it's like perfectly okay. For one, I have always been saying this ever since I worked at a movie theater. Maybe not as early as 16 years old, but when I worked at Starbucks, definitely in college, and I would sometimes have to deal with like the rudeness, the absolute agony of entitled customers who had obviously never worked behind a counter a day in their life. I've been saying for a long time, right? Like, I know that we used to have compulsory military service in this country. I mean, you didn't always have to go into the military, but if there was a war, you could get drafted. And I know that Israel, right, drafts its people into the military at a certain age. And this happens, okay? So I'm not saying, like, go back to the draft and go back to compulsory military service. But I have been a big advocate for a while. I think it would be good for this country to allow, to basically force everybody out of high school maybe even in high school, right, to work, let's say, 3 months behind a counter somewhere. Like, you know, you turn 16, you get that driver's license. Okay, you go work at Chick-Fil-A now. You get paid and everything, but for 3 months, there's no turning back. You have to go work at Chick-Fil-A. I know, again, this is very draconian. It doesn't sound like something that you should be able to do in a free society. Okay, maybe don't require them to do it, but maybe give them a strong incentive to do it. Okay, so like if you're 16 years old, go work at Chick-fil-A for 3 months, you'll get half your college paid for, or something like that. I don't know. Give them strong incentives for it. Because I think that if like everybody in this country came from kind of having the same common experience of having to like work behind the counter somewhere and serve somebody, right, it may lead to a more respectful society, a more economically stable society. I think it would just like be egalitarian all the way. I don't think I'm the only one who's ever proposed this. I don't think this is original or anything like that. But to me, it's like this thing that Chick-fil-A is doing. I'm like, yes, I think more companies should actually be doing this. I don't know if I would want to go, have my kids go work at Chick-fil-A, right? Because, yeah, the only thing I really worry about is that it poses, you got all these little kids running through the kitchen. That's probably a food safety issue because kids are disgusting. They pick their noses and put their fingers other places and then rub them on anything that they can find. As I saw this week, right, teaching summer camp, but I would say like other companies that, could get in on this. And yeah, it's like, again, we always say that these days, like when you go into a fast food restaurant somewhere, right, you see these jobs that used to be occupied by 16-year-olds filled by adults, right? I mean, there's people in there working, they're 38, 50, older than that in places like McDonald's and Arby's. And I know these aren't the most glamorous jobs in the world, but, you know, and I don't have the statistics at my hand or anything. I did look at this a while back, but we have the least amount of kids working today than has ever happened since child labor laws since child labor was in effect. Okay. Like in the early 20th century when Roosevelt was president. Okay. The first Roosevelt. Okay. So we need to seriously think about this. I think like maybe don't throw this summer story out with the beach water. Keep it here and let's meditate on it a little bit and actually maybe have a discussion here about summer camps for kids that actually teach customer service and entrepreneurship. See, I can't say the word, but I know what it means, right? And yeah, I'm not saying that we need to bring back child labor or anything like that. And this summer, Chick-Fil-A thing is definitely not doing that. Okay. But maybe we should think, instead of like sending the kids off to a theater camp, and don't send all of them off, or otherwise I wouldn't have a job for 2 weeks out of the year. But instead of sending them to soccer camp or something like that, you know, let them work behind the counter. I think, you know, it allows them to engage with service workers who, like, let's face it, are sometimes some of the least esteemed members of our workforce, right? These people who just take the orders and take out the trash all day. It'll allow them to see them for who they really are, as like true human beings who are working, who are trying to make it in this world. And yeah, let's maybe do that. I don't think it's I really don't think it's such a bad idea, right? Going forward. All right, well, that was a fun way to start the show from Birmingham, Alabama. I am Mike Booty, and this is your Midnight Citizen Show. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, wherever you are, whenever you are. This is a show, if you're new here, where for 14 years now, 14 years, just been coming here to the microphone and very rarely getting political. We don't do that kind of show here, unless we have to. And I don't think I was being political just now. I was responding to a story that was in the news this week, something I've been thinking about, because I have been one of those hundreds of thousands of regularly employed teachers in the United States who, throughout the summer, needs extra work. It's a very common misnomer to say that teachers get the summers off. I mean, some teachers do, but a lot of teachers who are just kind of constantly, you know, having bills to pay and things like that, do need the work, and they take to teaching summer camp. And so, right? I mean, this week I was teaching a playwriting camp for a local theater. I'm not a playwright at all, but I am an English teacher, and it's a very sneaky way to kind of make sure that the kids get a little bit of English in with their summer programming. Okay. So that's what I was doing this week. And I just was reading the story the other day and thinking about, like, if there are parents who sort of see value in this, like $35 is not much to ask. And I think, like, you know, I go to Chick-Fil-A. I had to go to Chick-Fil-A today to get something to eat because I was out and about, and it was just a hot day, and I didn't have much time to eat. And Chick-Fil-A, I think actually some voting districts in Alabama have used Chick-Fil-A franchisees as consultants to kind of figure out how they can do voting more efficiently. Because I tell you what, you go to Chick-fil-A, it's the only fast food restaurant you go to that you know that no matter where you are in line, you're going to be out of there in like less than 5 minutes. It's like the most efficient thing that you've ever seen if you've ever been to a fast food, a Chick-fil-A drive-through. And it's honestly, it's like, it's something to see. It's really amazing. It's like a well-oiled machine that's just been oiled. Okay, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, I'm really, really talking up Chick-fil-A. I do have some problems with them as a company, yes, as a fairly progressively minded, I guess, college-educated liberal. I do. They have had some skeletons in their cultural closet. I remember that there was that thing about 13 years ago where during the summer, Chick-fil-A was in the news for another reason. They started to kind of have this, I don't know, like I think the CEO of Chick-fil-A spoke out against gays getting married. And so that entire summer, just people started boycotting Chick-fil-A left and right. It barely put a dent in their business. And even today, a lot of people remember those comments and still will not go to Chick-fil-A. But like my wife is one of them, and I kind of usually don't tell her if I go to Chick-fil-A. I don't think she objects to it, but I don't think she likes it at the same time. Okay. But yeah, and I do remember there was this the summer of, I think, 2011. Remember there was a big kiss-in. There was like this organized kiss-in where, people of the LGBTQ community got together at Chick-fil-A's across the nation and just started kissing each other to protest. And that seemed to just do it. It was kind of a big moment of demonstration, and nothing else really happened after that. Life went on as usual, and Chick-fil-A lived to be protested another day, right? So yeah, I was at teaching summer camp this week at for a local theater, and we used as our venue the same high school we used last year. We went to Mountain Brook High School here in Alabama. Mountain Brook is, for those uninitiated, is probably one of the richest communities in the entire country. It's just one of these, like, I don't know, Forest Hills in New York, Highland Park in Chicago. One of these very affluent bubbles in an otherwise kind of mid-size, struggling American city. And Mountain Brook High School is indeed a public high school, but it kind of functions like its own private world. I think they have school buses, but that's about the only thing that looks public about it, is that they have school buses. And indeed, like, I am looking for a teaching job right now, and an English position to teach 10th and 12th grade did recently come up at Mountain Brook High School. And I started filling out an application. I got about halfway through the application, and I suddenly started to think, like, is this something I want to do? Because, you always get this thing about kids who go to these very rich, elite high schools. And I mean, Mountain Brook is constantly ranked as one of the best high schools in America. I think it's like on U.S. News and World Report, they have a big framed magazine in their lobby at Mountain Brook High School. And I was just, you always hear this cliche. Maybe it's a cliche for a reason. These rich kids are all entitled. They know that you're a teacher that makes no money. They know that their parents would make way more money than you do. And you always hear about the kids with helicopter parents. And that's not really necessarily true. Not every parent is a helicopter parent, but having taught high school for a certain amount of time, I can tell you that it only takes one helicopter parent to make your life miserable. But I was filling out this application to teach English there this week, and I feel like I'm a fairly strong candidate, but I was also, then the day after I filled out the application, I drove to Mountain Brook High School to teach summer camp there, and this was last Monday, and I just said to my wife, who was in the car with me, because she's teaching alongside me, she's teaching a Shakespeare class while I'm teaching playwriting. I said to her, I think if I worked here, I would just get knots in my stomach. every day. And the reason for that is that it's just an intimidating high school. It's like, remember that movie, The Shawshank Redemption, like when Andy Dufresne first goes into the prison and there's that big camera shot, that flyover shot of the prison that just like, and it goes by the American flag and it's kind of flapping in the wind. And you just get this sense of this gigantic, intimidating monster. That's what Mountain Brook High School feels like to me. And I just, I guess I'm invalidating my application by talking about it right now. I would not be opposed to working there. It's just I also kind of have sworn off teaching high school for the time being. I like teaching college where there can legally be no helicopter parents, right? So that's where I am right now in my career. So I filled out the application, and I've still got some more things to do on it. I'm going to send it in and just see what happens. I do not expect to be called back about it because I kind of feel that there's just something about me that doesn't really quite fit into that community. Number one is like not having any money. That's usually strikes me out of it. But the other thing also is that you kind of have to care about football a lot, and I don't at all, especially high school football. And yeah, you have to be able to deal with more stuff than just teaching. And I think that goes for high school anywhere now. You have to deal with a lot. It's just right now I'm kind of just enjoying my gig. I did finish teaching summer camp today. I have no more official employment until August when I start adjunct teaching for the university again. But, between now and then, there's a lot of things that I've got lined up that I'm going to do. It's just not consistent, but we'll get there. It's fine. It's okay. This is only the second year of me teaching summer camp at Mountain Brook High School. With the camp itself, I've been here, this is my 8th year, which is kind of crazy to say. It's probably been my longest, most consistent teaching gig I've ever had. I will say, I don't know, there may be a curse on the high school, because I remember last summer, the media was there because there was this girl from Mountain Brook High School about 24 years ago. She was my age. I think she was a senior when I was a senior. She was from Mountain Brook High School. Her name was Natalie Holloway, and she was on a beach trip with her friends down in the, I think it was the Bahamas. And she disappeared. She vanished. And I think they're pretty certain now. I think he has been found guilty. This guy, Jordan Vandersloot, who's now identified on the internet as a serial killer, did most likely kill her and dispose of her body. And last summer, he was being extradited to Birmingham, to the courthouse here, to do that. So because apparently he was not only one of these guys who killed somebody, but he taunted her family for years. He would actually, I think what he was being brought here last summer for was he was extorting Natalie Holloway's mother. And basically saying, if you give me this amount of money, I'll tell you what happened to her. Kind of like that movie, The Vanishing, right? And it was a terrible thing. And I remember, I was teaching summer camp last summer and just looked out the window, and there were all these, local media there, talking about it. And then this summer, this happened. This just happened earlier this week. These, I think at least 2 girls from Mountain Brook High School were swimming in the Gulf of Mexico. And they were bitten by sharks. And you may have read about this in the news. I'm looking at this on the AP. Right. Florida authorities warn of shark dangers along Gulf Coast beaches after 3 people are attacked. They still don't know what kind of sharks attack them. It doesn't seem to be like a great white or anything like in that movie Jaws. And incidentally, I did find out this news as I was watching Jaws the other night. My wife was watching Jaws. And I just thought of that scene, with Hooper, right, where they're like, "What kind of shark is it?" And he's got that pencil right between his teeth. It's like tiger shark, right? Tiger shark. So they said that a hammerhead was spotted, but all in all, 3 people were attacked, and they said it's incredibly the odds are ridiculously rare that 3 people could be attacked in one day and such. And not only that, but in the middle of the day too, because sharks are normally night feeders, right? Remember when Hooper and Brody go out on the boat? It's like, he's a night feeder. We got to find him now, right? You get the late show on this thing, okay? So, yeah, it says in Walton County, the Sheriff's Office Fire Department and the state's wildlife agency were working together to patrol the water with boats and the shore with vehicles. Please swim carefully today. The first attack, okay, here it is. The first attack happened Friday afternoon when a woman was bitten by a shark near Watersound Beach, the Walton County Sheriff's Office said. She had critical injuries on her midsection and arm, and part of her arm had to be amputated. God dang it. She was flown to a trauma center. Less than 2 hours later, I believe this is the girl from Mountain Brook, firefighters responded to another beach about 4 miles east of the first attack, following multiple reports of a teenager injured by a shark. 2 teenage girls were in waist-deep water with a group of friends when they were attacked. When lifeguards and deputies arrived on the scene, they found one of the females had significant injuries to the upper leg and one hand. Fire officials said in an update she was flown to a trauma center. The other teen had what officials described as minor injuries on one foot. Yikes. I mean, that is like just some, scary stuff. It really is. Because I always say, like, I'm not afraid of the water. I'm just respectful of it. And I do not like to go down to the beach, honestly. I like to sit on the beach. I like to kind of wade in the water. And the problem is like wading is always where it starts. If you've ever been to the beach, into the ocean of any kind, it's like the most incredible sensation in the world. It's not like being in a pool, which is just kind of still water. Right, that ocean finds you, man. It just like creeps up on you, and it kind of starts lapping up on you higher and higher, and that sand is sinking between your feet, and you just suddenly kind of feel like you are becoming a part of the ocean and a part of the natural world and just the world and the universe. And it's a very cosmic. I'm not a very spiritual person most of the time, but when I am, it's usually at the beach. And it's just this very addicting feeling. It must be like what people, who have heroin for the first time kind of experience. You just kind of want more of it, right? And so, yeah, you just kind of keep getting further and further out into that ocean. Before long, you are waist deep. And about 10 seconds after that, you're neck deep. And that's where the sharks find you, because then you start to kind of, right, as we all know in Jaws, ring the dinner bell. You're kind of paddling around there. And usually around this time of the year, it's the riptide, right, that you really have to watch out for. But yeah, this time, it was just the sharks. The sharks got them. And yeah, people are going around talking this week, because I actually had some campers this week who knew the girls who were bitten. And so I don't know if there's like some kind of a curse with what's going on with the theater camp or the venue where I teach. I don't know, but this year and last year we had media at the at the high school, reporting on it. So I don't know. I hope they get better. I don't know. But other than that, right, the last of my summer campers left today. We were done about 4:00 or so, And as I said, I don't write plays. I think I've written a few in my life. I mean, like, what writer hasn't? But I've never been much of a theater person. My wife is a big theater person, and that's how she got me into teaching summer camp some 8 years ago. She was like, they needed somebody to just come in and do some kind of a writing component with the kids. And she said, oh, well, my husband is an English teacher, and so I got hired to come in and work with the kids. And it turned out to be a good experience. They've asked me back every summer since then. So, and one of the things that is very difficult, right? And this goes for any kind of, teacher that is teaching a subject that they're very passionate about, right? Is that you get to take something that you have devoted quite a bit of your life to, which is English, which is the written word, which I suppose is to a degree writing. And you have to go in and watch people who have not gotten to that point yet, nowhere near that, haven't even started. And it's very clumsy, and it's kind of ugly sometimes, and it's and you just have to have the wherewithal as a teacher to just like be encouraging, to be like that guy, And I went in this week. I taught kids between the ages of something like, I think the youngest kid was about 6 years old, and I think the oldest one was 15. And so I was working with these kids all week long on how they create a scene. And it's really about telling stories. And the idea of playwriting is that you are, all you're doing is telling a story without going into the characters' heads, right? Like when you're giving them a book, when you're giving your reader some kind of a story, you can say everything that's going on in the character's heads. You are responsible as the writer for telling that complete story. Whereas if you're writing a play or like a screenplay, for instance, for the movies, all you have to do is just say what's happening on stage at any given time, or what's on screen at any given time. And from there, like, you don't have to do the complete job there. The actor can take it from there. The director can take it from there. And so I tell the kids it's a really fun, distilled way to tell a story. And I think they really respond to that. This is not I've been kind of using that explanation for the last few years, and it seems to draw with them. So from there, I go on to teaching them how to make characters, make conflicted characters. And I talk to them about conflict. And, of course, these kids are so young. And I have this issue every single year in camp, is that they always want to write a play where nobody has conflict and everybody is friends. And they all want to do that. So I have to talk to them about conflict and say okay, so here's the deal. That's really nice, but remember that we don't go to, we don't pick up our phones and watch YouTube, and we don't go to the movies, and we don't go to the theater to watch people just getting along. That would be boring. And so, unfortunately, we as humans are wired for conflict. And I kind of do this exercise, right, where I put my elbow on the table and kind of extend my arm out. And I ask a volunteer, if I were to make this pose with my elbow on the table and my arm extended out, what would you do? And then they naturally join me in a game of arm wrestling, okay? And we have a little arm wrestling, and I always let them win and all that. And I just say to them, we as humans, right, are wired for conflict. I wish we wanted peace, but we're not. We're not. We are a species that always likes to fight with each other, right? I mean, see the Chick-Fil-A post this week, right? It's a very innocent story that people just had to get in a fight over, okay? And so, yeah, from there, they kind of create stories with conflict. And some of them go to the extreme end, and suddenly, by the end of the first day of writing, they come up to me and they're like, can we bring guns in? And, of course, they want to bring Nerf guns in, but they want to have scenes where everybody gets shot and things like that. So you have to train them on finding a happy medium, right? So it is very exhausting, right? Because you as the teacher are running around the room trying to help all these kids who have never written a play before and have never really even thought about what makes a story before, you're having to do this thing that you take so seriously, and you're having to see it done in very clumsy and very, 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 very bad ways, right? But I mean, they're kids and they're learning, and you just have to have patience with that, right? But yeah, in this week though, you do see the agony and the ecstasy of the writing process, and me as a writer, like a very jaded writer, I take the process so seriously that I can almost never do it most of the time because it stresses me out so much, right? You're in that class, and you really try to have to kind of keep, as the teacher, you have to keep your cynicism and your jadedness at the door, and you just have to go in like writing is the best thing ever. There's never a problem with it. There's no such thing as writer's block, right? And sometimes I slip a little bit. Okay. Like I do remember the other day I was talking to the kids, and I said to them, just keep in mind, because they were upset. It was the end of class and they wanted to keep writing. And I said to them, just keep in mind that the writer's job is never done. The writer is always writing, even when he's not writing. He's going to stay awake all night sometimes and write. He's going to like in his brain, he's going to be in the shower and he's going to be writing notes, and he's going to be thinking about this scene or that scene, and he's going to be at funerals. And I stopped myself there, and I suddenly said, like, I think I was looking at their faces and I was freaking them out, because I was suddenly making it seem like once you start writing, you can't stop. Like it was, again, some kind of an addiction, like going into the ocean or doing heroin or something like that. And so I had to calm it down a little bit. But I think the kids still were a little freaked out, because I left a few minutes after that, and I was walking through, and they were having lunch, and they were sitting around tables kind of eating their lunches and then writing their plays and like looking like really desperate and all that. So, right. And the timeline also made it very stressful, because they had to write an entire play and they had to perform it, today for their showcase for their parents. And so there was a very tight deadline to stick to, and I kept on, getting to that. And one of the camp directors came into my classroom the other day just to kind of get something and also check in and see how things were going. And she grabbed me afterwards, and she said, do you realize what you sounded like in there? I said, what? She said, like, you sounded like you were running a playwriting sweatshop. She said, you were literally walking around going to the kids like, plays, I need plays, bring me your plays, you have 5 more minutes, right? And so yeah, it was like, I mean, again, they can complain about Chick-Fil-A, but I mean, I guess to a degree, as I saw this week, right, all summer camps are supposedly, I guess, kind of like that, right? You're trying to get a product out. You're trying to get it in time for their parents to see it and for them to be proud of it. And, you just kind of go, right? And, so meanwhile, my wife Jessica was teaching Shakespeare, and I joke with her. It's like almost every year, one of us is going to make a kid cry. This year, I made it through the entire 2 weeks unscathed without making a kid cry. This year, it was Jessica. Jessica was telling the kids about Romeo and Juliet. Okay, that classic Shakespeare tragedy, which is also really kind of funny to me. I always say that Shakespeare's tragedies are way funnier than his comedies. But nevertheless, Jessica was talking to the kids about Romeo and Juliet, and one of the kids got really concerned about Romeo and Juliet, thinking that they were a little bit too attached to each other. And Jessica was she was gonna do part 1 of the story on one day, and then they were gonna come in the next day, and she was gonna do part 2 and resolve it. And Jessica was running out of time, and one of the kids wanted to know, what happens next? What happens next? And Jessica said, well, we're running out of time. You got to go to lunch. I'll tell you later. And they're like, no. I want to know what happens to Romeo and Juliet. Do they meet each other? Do they have friends? Do they live happily ever after? And Jessica's like, well, I mean, not really. And the kid's like, oh my God, what? And this kid started crying so much, and then asked to call her mom. And thank God for this mom. I don't think she was a helicopter parent. Said like, That's Shakespeare, honey. I don't know. So on last week's show, I did talk about the reason I did record last week's show not in the studio. I recorded it outside. Didn't have a whole lot of time to put together a show last week because I was in the middle of preparing for my parents' 50th wedding anniversary celebration that they were having the next day, right? And we were. Yeah, we went to like Oxford, Alabama, to where my parents got married 50 years ago, last Saturday, and we had the ceremony almost to the day, almost to the hour that they got married. And so yeah, it was really cool. I don't think I had ever been in that church before. It's the first time I had actually been in a church in quite a while. And one of the reasons I've always been thankful to my parents is. My parents are very much dyed-in-the-wool Southern Baptist, very Christian people. And I just started not liking church very early on. You know, it was like you have to get out of bed on Sunday and, you know, go to this place where you had to shake hands with everybody, and everybody was so nice. And, I mean, I guess... I don't know what kind of a kid was I. I mean, that's nice, I guess. But I just didn't like it. I didn't like it. And I found myself increasingly bemused by the church as I got older and became kind of a bit of a rebellious teenager, I suppose. And one day when I was 16 years old, you know, I woke up and I told my parents, like, I don't think I want to go to church today. And they're like, well, okay. That's fine. And the next week I said the same thing, and they just said, well, that's fine. And I'm telling you, it was a wild thing. I just like kept saying that over and over again, and then before long I realized, like, I guess I don't have to go to church anymore. There's one reason I've always kind of really, I mean, I respect my parents for a lot of reasons, but, you know, I think they wanted kind of a Christian upbringing for all their kids, right? They wanted, like a lot of Southern parents do, their kids to wake up on Sunday and get dressed and put on, you know, nice clothes and go down to the church and pray. And then on Monday, like, get up, go to work, eat Chick-Fil-A for lunch. And my parents have never forced me into that mold. And I always liked them for that. And one of the reasons I was just so glad to be with them last week at their 50th wedding anniversary. And I stood as my dad's best man, which was nice. It was a nice reversal because he was the best man at my wedding, so it was really great. But yeah. One thing that I did notice, though, is I had never been in like I had not been in a church like this in years, basically since I was a kid. Just there's this type of church that has always given me the creeps. And again, I think it's because I grew up in it. And it was this weird place that I had to go to every week that wasn't school, but I had to be at anyway. And just this particular kind of country church. You know the kind, you've seen them in movies, right? These even if you didn't grow up going to them, there would be this like one chapel, right, where with rows of pews. They called them pews, you know, these benches with cushions. And it would be there would be a dais up front and kind of a big, one of these big oak benches where the Protestant version of communion was taken. And you know, it always had this sketch on there that said, "Do this in remembrance of me." And I always wondered what that was. Like, what is this? What do you want me to do? And who am I remembering again? What? And, you know, I didn't pay much attention in Sunday school. Okay. But I did know what the Holy Grail was, right? From watching, Indiana Jones and Monty Python, of course, right? But But yeah, last Sunday there was a lot of downtime. We got there and we took pictures with the family, and then the ceremony we had about an hour or so of downtime. So I just wandered around this church, and again, the further and further away, it brought back very strong memories of just being in this small country church where I grew up, and of just, you would sometimes find yourself there when everybody would be concentrated in one place, right? Like the worship chapel or the fellowship hall or something like that. And then you would just like wander away from the group and kind of wander into these like long halls and get further and further away from the voices. And it would just take on this like remarkably spooky feeling. And like, recently obviously the internet has kind of gone crazy over this type of feeling, because this is what they have now dubbed liminal spaces, right? And as seen in something like the backrooms, for instance, like, the backrooms, this kind of, this internet phenomenon. I guess it's like kind of taken over like on creepypastas or whatever, or it's all over Reddit. And there's this idea, there's this like acres and acres and acres of just like empty spaces that are creepy because it looks like people should be in big spaces. But they're not. And when you have something like that, when you're in a place that feels like it should have people, but it doesn't, right. These are called liminal spaces. And, this kind of became like a thing a few years ago. Somebody posted a picture on Reddit, of like the original of like this kind of thing, that's basically just like, an old retail store that looks like it's been stripped of everything, and now it's just like yellow walls and yellow carpet, and this just blinding fluorescent light, and that kind of kicked off this whole backrooms obsession that people now have with liminal spaces. And every once in a while, I don't know how I got on the Reddit board, but like I'll go to Reddit and it'll just say like, hey, somebody just posted this in liminal space, and I'll kind of look around it, and it's kind of weird. Like some of these posts are like legitimately trying to capture that backrooms feeling. Like to me, the feeling is just like being in a place that is unhampered with, that's like unscrewed around with, and all these people are sort of like being like, I took a picture of this and I put it into Photoshop and all that. It's like, doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose, right? When you're taking a photo of like a creepy liminal space, and then you're kind of like doctoring it and all that. It seems like that kind of, I don't know. But I did have this feeling though, right? When I was at my parents' small town church in Oxford, Alabama last Saturday, of just walking around this place and just feeling like eerie, creeped out. There should be people here, and there's not. I can hear people, but they're off in the distance, right? And that's just kind of the feeling that you get being in liminal space. And I have said to people that looking at this like original backrooms photo, right? And they did, by the way, they did find this place where this photo was taken. It was taken in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And it was this place, this retail store that had gone out of business, and I think now it's like an indoor RC racing track, a place where you can come in and like race your RC vehicles or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, they've got this here, and I did just when I saw this original backrooms photo a while back, I had this feeling that like that was what it was like to be in the fellowship hall of the country church where I grew up in Moody, Alabama. Okay. This place that was just, it always creeped me out whenever it was like a Sunday, and I would sometimes like go with my dad, cause he was a deacon of the church, and the deacons were in charge of collecting the offerings, like the things that, the money that people give to the church that they tithe. And after that, my dad would, collect everybody's tithing, and then he would take it into a back room. into like an office, and he would count it. And to get to the place where he would count it, we would always have to walk through this empty fellowship hall that, again, the name implies it. It's like a fellowship. People should be there, right? Having fellowship and being together, but like nobody's there now. Okay. And it always just gave me the creeps to go through there. And, this original Backrooms photo did remind me of that. And so it was crazy when I found myself at my parents' church where they got married 50 years ago last weekend. And I was walking through it, and I ended up finding myself walking up like a flight of stairs, right? And going into this, just opening up this like thin plywood door, and it creaked open, and there in front of me was like possibly the creepiest thing that I've seen during the daytime in a very, very long time. Okay. It was this, it was this fellowship hall, where, it was a fellowship hall. It was exactly what the whole Backrooms thing reminded me of in the first place. This fellowship hall in a small town church. I took a picture of it. That's what the cover of this week's show is, by the way. And, not quite meeting the perfect conditions of liminal space, where it needs to be like a room that's in the position of transition, I suppose. Because as you see, it's got like, tables there, like round tables with chairs at it and things like that. But the lights are all off, and the only light that you see is kind of coming in through the windows, the doors that are surrounding it. And yeah, like a classic horror movie, it does have all these doors that just, I guess, like monsters can pop out of at any given time and things like that. And I've never done this. I did actually post on the Reddit board for liminal spaces, and I think I did post it here. So like a couple of other photos or a few other photos. It's just one from like the reverse angle. There's a little bit more light now, but it's still kind of creepy because it's got like this kind of bar in the back that it looks like maybe Lloyd from The Shining should be in. Yeah, the Shining, I don't know if anybody's ever mentioned this, but The Shining is very much like the liminal space concept. That whole movie by Stanley Kubrick. Yeah, there's the original photo. This is a pretty creepy photo, I think, if I do say so myself. And this is kind of meant to emulate the original Backrooms photo of that store in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. It's like the camera is kind of looking into a room that just has like a ping pong table in it, and the lights are off, and the ping pong table, which again should be having people around it having a great merry old time playing ping pong, trying to beat each other, is just vacant. There's nothing there. It feels like there should be something there, but there's not. And and I think that is actually the definition of what they call the uncanny valley, right? Kind of like Weekend at Bernie's, right? You know that movie? I was talking about that in the pre-show. It's like, you look at somebody and they kind of like who's dead, and they look like they should be alive. They look like they could just spring to life and start singing a song from Sweeney Todd at any given time. But, they won't because they're dead. And here's a picture of like a game shelf, like of Bible bingo and Clue and Yahtzee and all that stuff. And then a picture of the game room proper, which has, again, just like, empty gaming tables like air hockey and foosball and pool and all that. Yeah, it was just altogether a very creepy experience. But and I felt just like an intruder. I think that's the thing about being in like a liminal space, is you feel like an intruder being there sometimes, right? You just feel like, yeah, I shouldn't be doing this. There's something wrong here, right? To make things right, though, I went and got my nieces and nephews, and I brought them up there, and we all played, we played games up there. Taught my nephew Wyatt how to, like, kind of shoot pool and all that. And, just filled this place here that maybe hasn't seen that much action in several years, with a little bit of happiness. And just tried to make it, all in all, just kind of a pleasant experience for all of us. So yeah, and that's the end of that chapter. Right. right. So I think I'm going to take a break here, play some music, get up, stretch. I'll be back here in about 8 minutes. Enjoy the break.
Just to get it out, baby, when I'm in your arms, I get docile, just like a little child. What's that doing, baby? Baby, you gotta look again. I'm an instinct girl, yeah, you got my brain. Hey, that's not automatic matter. Come on, baby, that's as fast as plain. Nobody to pass, cause I'll be damned before I be outdone. Got on a trail, riding up on his tail, blowing like a rocket and fly. I showed it again, took a look in the mirror. That's when I saw them passing red lights. Hey, look down. You better slow down. Let me tell you, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna let you know the meaning of pain. Let's go tripping. He's playing it cool. Well, he seems to be the talk of the town. I know him real well, we're sharing a cell. Then both of us were feeling low down. They took away our cars and put us both behind bars. 21 days without pay. When the sun goes down, you can hear the sound out in the halls of the riverside jail. Hey, look down. You better slow down. Let me tell you, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna let you know the meaning of life.
No, switch to whiskey now. It's always playing. That should be the tagline for the show. Right. Start with coffee, finish with whiskey. I don't know. That's pretty lame. I'm not like one of those like, hey man, come on into the double deuce. I'm not one of those guys, right? Not one of those like power drinkers or whatever. I do like whiskey though, especially after a day like today. Just reward yourself, right? I got some Woodford Reserve and big old thing of ice in it. So, you know. Welcome back to the Midnight Citizen Show. This is once again your host, Mike Booty. We had some good songs there. You just heard a band that I played before. A band, looks like a Big Sandy and his Fly Right Boys. It sounds like, I don't know, what are those ska bands of like the 90s, like the Squirrel Nut Zippers? They sound like they're in league with those guys. But the name of the song was called Hey Low Down. Before that, we had a band called Heavy Trash with Gee, I Really Love You. That was a live track. And all of that is available over at the freemusicarchive.org. So head on over there if you've got stuff you need to use music in. Free Music Archive lets you use all that music as long as you give it credit, which I just did. So there you go. Let's check it out. I do want to remind you to check out what's going on with all things Midnight Citizen related over at my Substack. The Substack is called mikesbonfire.substack.com. mikesbonfire.substack.com. You can see there's basically 3 things I'm doing right there each week throughout the summer. I'm releasing a podcast every Saturday night. That's what you're listening to right now. And every Tuesday, I release a new episode of the Video Street Video Store, a place that we're about to go down to in just a few more minutes. Edited collections of great stuff from our video and film past. And every week on there, I don't just like give you an edited collection. I actually give you a full newsletter experience. A full newsletter experience, right? Where I actually write an entire, like a treatise, right? Or just a write-up on all the videos that I feature that week, right? So yeah, this week we've got stuff like Behind the Scenes on Production 821. That's a behind-the-scenes reel of Rebel Without a Cause with featuring Gig Young and Natalie Wood, which I would highly recommend if you've never seen it before. It's one of the great behind-the-scenes documentary of the studio contract days of the 1950s. There's a promotional film for the Sun Sphere in Knoxville, Tennessee for the 1982 World's Fair. And then, of course, we've got a training video. You know, if you've been here at the Midnight Citizen for a long time, you know that I love training videos, okay? Especially ones of like the retail video variety, places that sold videotapes, video games, all that stuff. I love that stuff so much because they always try to be hip and cool and speak to the young losers who work there, I guess. And yeah, and then every Thursday, for at least the next couple of weeks, I've got a couple of more stories that I'm ready to release, and then after that, I'm working on new stuff to release after that. I am writing releasing some short fiction that I wrote. It's called Small Town Summer. All that stuff that goes on in a small Alabama town during the summertime in some kind of nondescript area of time. I don't know, like the 1990s, I think maybe. I don't know. This week, I don't know what I was thinking. This week's got like this kid going all over town to find like this mysterious kind of videotape. And it looks like he's going to places that existed in the early 1990s and then other places like Suncoast Video that existed in the late 90s. And I don't know. It's, you know, but it's a good story and I'm really proud of this fiction, and please read it, you know, and subscribe to the newsletter, right? Yeah. And if you are a subscriber, keep in mind that on this week's show, because it is a studio show, I will be releasing a subscriber-only cut of this episode. Not on audio, but on video. So I do like an entire pre-show and then a post-show and put all that together. And that is a video that you have access to with this week's, if you are a subscriber to mikesbonfire.substack.com. So please check it out. I did get interviewed, by the way. I forgot to mention this totally. I did put it up there on social media. If you're over there at Instagram at the Midnight Citizen Podcast, if you're on my Facebook page at the Midnight Citizen, I did put it up there that I did get interviewed by Bob Lament over at Static Radio last week. I forgot to mention on last week's show. I don't know why, because it was such a great event. 14 years. This is the first time I've ever been interviewed by anybody. And me and Bob, it wasn't really an interview. It was just kind of a talk. Me and Bob talked about all sorts of things. From working in video stores. Both of us have that past working in video stores. We just talked about a ton of stuff. And it's a great show over at Static Radio. So I'll post the interview in the show notes. And you can check it out there. And your humble Midnight Citizen getting interviewed, right? Just like Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct gets interviewed by Newman, right? Yeah. So all this talk about liminal spaces does remind me of just ghost hunting. You know that thing, ghost hunting? That I got so disappointed. I remember when I was a little kid and I was a big fan of Ghostbusters. And my mom called me into the room. She's like, Mike, come here. And so there's something on TV. And I walked into the living room, and I was just like, this is just the boring old news. And she's like, I know, but they're going to do a special here. And yeah, sure enough, I see on the TV, big words come up that says the real Ghostbusters, right? I was like, oh my gosh, like the real Ghostbusters, like the cartoon? And she's like, no, these are actually the people who really do what the Ghostbusters do. And so I don't know if my mom thought it or not, like they would have proton packs or whatever, but yeah, sure enough, the news report was a bust. It was like just these people walking around in dark rooms, asking questions to ghosts, right? Like, how long have you been dead? If you can hear my voice, if you acknowledge me, blow this candle out. Things like that, right? I just got really disappointed. Little did I know that I had seen a forecast of the next 30 years of television, because there was every show is like that now. Okay, ghost hunting. I don't know. Maybe it's on its way out. I don't know. But remember, for a while there was Ghost Hunters, And then there was Ghost Adventures with that like fraternity guy who walks around threatening to punch the ghosts and things like that, right? And yeah, ghost hunting is never something I've been really into. I know my wife used to love doing it in college. Like, she always talks about how like her friend and her would just like use it more or less as like an excuse kind of to just go out to the country and just go on long country drives, things like that. But it was never something I got into. I don't believe that I believe in ghosts, in no ghosts. I don't think I do. I think like, primarily, even if I do believe in ghosts, I think it's like maybe not something we should worry about that much. We shouldn't stress over it. Right. But I don't know. I try not to cast judgment on people who do ghost hunt, but sometimes it's just so easy because they just look like big dorks, right? Just walking around but at the same time, I mean, ghost hunting is a form of going to church, is it not? Right? It's like when you go on a ghost hunt, and I have been on a ghost hunt before. As a matter of fact, I almost went on a ghost hunt this weekend, right? My friend Dave was being contracted to go and film a bunch of ghost hunters walking around a place that's actually used as a haunted house during the Halloween season. But I don't think they wanted any outsiders, so I wasn't allowed to go, which is fine. But yeah, I think like these people are, as I've seen on my own ghost hunts that I've been invited along on, they are very protective of the spiritual world, and they don't want anybody along who's going to make fun of the ghost or make fun of them for trying to contact the ghost, for just bringing bad juju to the experience. I don't think they like that. So that's probably why I wasn't allowed to come this weekend, because maybe they thought they just didn't know me. And I think I would have been respectful, but I don't know. At the same time, I do remember at my old job, right, I was working at this place called, Red Mountain Park. I was working there. It was like this, park here in Birmingham, and I was the education director. Before that, though, I was a zipline guide, and that was basically just like you would work on the zip lines, but then you would just pick up any odd job that they needed to be done. And one day, my boss said, I need 2 people to act as guides for a ghost hunt this Saturday. It's going to be taking place here at the park after hours. We just need you to walk them to a couple of places so that they can try and get stuff, talk to the ghost. My hand instantly went up. Of course I wanted to do that. Right. And yeah, I went on this ghost hunt with these guys, and me, of course, being a zipline guide who also had a deep interest in the history of the place, right? The history of where we were. It was like former mining land, it was a mining camp. And so there was over a century of history that we were walking on top of, right? And so I kind of knew intimately. I had read books, and I had done all this research and talked to a bunch of local historians about it. And so I pretty much, if there was anybody who was at the park who was as knowledgeable of its history at that time, then it was probably me. It was definitely me, and definitely me that night when I was there. And I was there with about like a group of 12 adult ghost hunters. They're all older than me, right? And they're walking around. And of course, the thing about ghost hunters is that they love their equipment. They love to unload like these. Their favorite piece of equipment is like this Zoom H4, this big old voice recorder that I use to actually do my. Whenever I'm not in the studio, I record here. So they love this stuff, and they love to talk into it, and they love to, listen to their voices back and see if they pick up any kind of anomalies or whatever. And they love to put it into editing programs and look for spikes and things like that. And yeah, other than that, they've got all these other I mean, it is seriously, I am in the wrong business. I feel like, the guy right after the Cold War who wishes that he would have got into the, bomb shelter building business. It's honestly, I think the era is passing us a little bit, but if I just gotten into the business of like building ghost hunting equipment, I probably would be pretty well now. I gotta say, because I mean, these guys, they just bring out thousands of dollars of equipment because they're adults with disposable income and a hobby. Okay. So yeah, we just walk them into the park and we're just walking them down the trails, and I walk them out to one of the old mines, and and they're sitting there and they're kind of asking the ghost questions. They ask everybody to kind of be quiet, right? And just like lower your voices, don't talk at all. And like, you just hear nothing but crickets going, right? And you just hear occasionally, they're just like, let's commune with the spirits. Let them talk to us, right? And then after about 5 minutes of the spirits not talking to them, they start asking questions. They're like, okay, so if you're not going to start the conversation, I guess I will, right? So they start asking the ghost questions. They're like, were you treated well here, right? And I see where this is going. Like, what they're trying to do is they're trying to, pretend like, maybe not pretend. I don't know. Maybe that's not the right word. But they feel like they have a certain grasp over this history, all right? Because it was a southern mining company that acted under what we would call a paternalistic spirit and perhaps maybe an exploitation spirit, right? This southern mining company over 100 years ago that would, bring in people and employ them on a paternalistic basis, which basically means that they would get paid, but they would get paid in company money. And they could take that company money and they could take it down to the company store. And I mean, we've all heard that Tennessee Ernest Ford song, right? I owe my soul to the company store. And so they were very much under this impression, right, that it was just a miserable place to work, that nobody could have possibly been happy here. And they were basically trying to like tell the spirits in the afterlife, like how exploited they were. And so there was something a little bit condescending about it in a way. Because, yeah, while there was no doubt people who maybe did not want to be in the system, it was also sort of like for a lot of people what they could get at the time. And, yeah, because of a bunch of, labor strikes and labor and changes in labor laws in the 1950s and 60s, a lot of those paternalistic practices were kind of put to bed. But I'm sitting out there and at 10 o'clock at night and it's just pitch-ass dark outside and I'm just hearing these people commune with spirits and tell them that they could have done better with their lives. I don't know, but they were asking the miners, "Were you treated well out here?" And so I take them to another place. Like I take them to this old dilapidated bathhouse where all the miners would come up out of the mines, just drenched head to toe in like red clay and dirt and hematite. And I started hearing them be like. One of them suddenly was like, I think I've got something, right? Like we're hunting for Jaws or something. And he's like, I think I've got something. And he's like, yes, I do believe I'm communing with an old black man. Okay. And so he started asking, because of course he's an old black man who worked in the mines. Of course he says, were you a slave? And, right. Like, I keep my mouth shut at this point. I'm like, okay, whatever. But, I secretly, I'm kind of going like, this whole place opened up after the Civil War. It was a whole part of Reconstruction. There were no slaves here, right? Okay. So walking down, again, trying to keep my judgment in, but also sort of at this point, just being totally like these people are, they're well-meaning, but a little misguided. Okay. And I'm walking them back down to the parking lot and, I end up talking to this man, right. Who just had this conversation with a slave with a black man. And I hated to be that guy, but I was just like, you know what? I know something and I don't want him to walk away with the bad impression that, that he talked to a ghost who sort of like tried to convince him that he was a slave or something. But, I told this man, sir, I'm sorry, but I have to tell you, like, if you did talk to a slave, if you felt like you talked to a slave, then I have to tell you that all of the mining operations here happened, after 1871. Like you saw the marker on that mine down there. It opened in 1871 and slavery had been abolished in the South. This was purely a Reconstructionist effort. And he said to me like, oh, no. He told me he was a black slave. So I just at that point, again, I mean, these are true believers, right? I mean, and it is one of those things, one of those reasons why maybe like years ago I kind of stopped. I don't know. Maybe it was a reason I stopped going to church. I haven't really explored this in full yet. But what I was finding out is that if you do talk to these people, you have a hard time debating with them. you have a hard time actually not even debating with them, but just telling them something that you know that you know is true from having, just been paid to sit in a room and do research and read books and talk to people who know more than you. Right. And so like you're in this Dunning-Kruger. I was in this place, in the Dunning-Kruger curve. I was in what they call the Valley of Despair. Okay. And I was at the point where I had read so much that I was like, I don't know if I know anything. There's so much to know that I don't know if I could possibly ever. And it would be several months before I read enough to where I would like be comfortably kind of up in the upward turn where I would be like, I know enough, but there's still more to know, but I'm kind of comfortable with that. So you can sustain that a little bit, right? The Dunning-Kruger thing. And this guy was still very much at the very beginning of that curve, the Dunning-Kruger curve, where it's like, you just feel like you know everything and you can tell the people who know more than you that you know more than them, right? So, and I don't know, that's just, and a lot of true believers never, ever reach that point, right? They just kind of, stay there at the very top of that curve forever and never just take the plunge into despair. Just it's a brave plunge that you have to take, right? But it was fortunately one at the time that I was getting paid to take, right? But nevertheless, I mean, he's a true believer there because he's got a higher power telling him, right, that this is all you need to know, and you don't need to know anything else, and you're totally okay because you do know this, and because you do believe in it. You can totally, feel free to argue with people who might tell you opposite. I don't know, This is a ghost hunting. Okay. All right. And with that, yes, little break. Let's go down to the Video Street Video Store and check out some of their stock. See what they've got in this week. Again, remember, you can check out the Video Street Video Store, complete video without me talking over it, right? Every week, every Tuesday, over there at the Substack, mikesbonfire.substack.com. All right, enjoy.
Season. Real stories. Real people. Real action. And reality was never like this.
At best, I'd say you have a year to live.
I know. I overheard you tell Dr. Franklin.
You already knew, and you made me go through the agony of telling you this? You are an inconsiderate and thoughtless woman.
If she's in pain, then damn it, don't keep her alive.
Not in pain. Your wife will be fine until she dies.
She should not be allowed to live if she's going to die like this.
Well, you're going to die, Mr. Roberts. You're allowed to live.
I'm not going to die within a year, Doctor.
How do you know? You could be hit by a car driving home today.
I'm not going home today.
But it's unnecessary. This man does not need surgery.
He's already paid for it, and we've already spent the money.
If you're the man in charge, if you go on vacation during this crisis, you'll lose the respect of every doctor who works for you.
I've weighed this decision most carefully. I'll see you in a week.
You're not really in love with me. You just think you are. It happens all the time, Leslie. Patients think they're in love with their doctors, but they never really are. They suck the doctors into believing them. The doctors do. And then the doctors get dumped.
I am a registered nurse, not a registered prostitute.
Medical season. 9 out of 10 doctors agree. If this show gets on the air, watch out. It just might be habit forming. The Three of Us. The wildest new comedy you've ever seen. On the right are Bob and Kathy. They're married. On the left is Susan, Kathy's best friend. They all live together in fashionable West Los Angeles. This makes for a whole lot of fun, besides making Bob very excited.
Well, I think we ought to do something exotic.
What did you have in mind, darling?
Well, I don't know. Maybe, what they talk about in the magazines.
The only magazines we got around here is TV Guide. Hey, why don't we join a record club?
Come on. Let's ask her in here.
I don't want to ask her in here. I went to college with her.
So you went to college with her. You're both smart. She'll find her way in here in a second. Why can't she have 2 eggs like the rest of us? Why do I have to make an odd number of eggs every morning? Why do I even have to make eggs every morning? Why am I doing the cooking? What is my place here?
Oh, listen. Before I forget, if it's okay, can I borrow your overnight bag? Sure. It's upstairs.
Overnight bag, huh? Where are you going?
Why do you care?
What do you mean, why do I care? I'm a human being. I have feelings. I'm also very good in bed. Oh, please, Susan. Please, you two. Please. Look, James.
Everybody's fantasy now becomes a situation comedy. The Three of Us. It's in the can and waiting. Black. Bet. A young black veteran from the Vietnam War returns and takes up practice as a veterinarian in a small southern town. He and his family find acceptance difficult.
Now, if he's going to have to be operated on, quite frankly, Duke doesn't want you to do it.
You mean I'm good enough to board this dog while you're out of town, but I'm not good enough to operate? Is that what you're saying to me?
Well, I don't have anything to do with it. It's his choice.
I'm not the kind of vet that believes in drowning cats. Except the kind that go after my wife.
I just take care of a cow. Do you understand? That's all.
She doesn't have a cow, Dr. Bowman.
Maybe we're talking about somebody else. Who do you mean? Malpractice? That's right. Hey, give me a break, man. We're talking about parakeets. Stay away from the sheep. You got it? You just stay away from them.
Last night, Martin, in your sleep, you told me that you loved me.
You know I meant it. What else did I say?
You said you didn't think I'd ever race again, but you wouldn't have to shoot me.
Black Bet. He's coming your way just as fast as he can. Plus, there's more. Specials, the likes of which you've never seen. Specials, like Tuesday Night Nightclub. Every random Tuesday, NBC takes you to a world-famous cabaret to present the finest in underground entertainment. And a new production of Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman, totally acted by children.
Do you have your glasses? Yeah, I got my glasses. And your saccharin? Yeah, my saccharin. Goodbye, I'm ready.
Also, a series of bicentennial programs guaranteed to make you feel 200 years old. And comedian Albert Brooks breaks out of his late-night harness, gets a primetime special, and finally gets a chance at making some big money. It's all right here, and God willing, you're gonna like it a lot.
Terminator 2 3D is a theatrical high-tech hybrid attraction produced by Digital Domain.
I definitely think Universal has raised the bar a little bit with Terminator 2. They have combined moving 3D images that go from one screen to the other.
Let's go. We don't have much time.
There are interactive live actors on the stage that go back into the screen and become 3D characters and back out. And it's seamless. You feel it, you see it, you experience it like I've never seen before.
T2 3D's live-action sequences, directed by James Cameron, were shot with customized 65mm film cameras and utilized special movable camera mounts.
In the past, past, 3D cameras have been static. They've been locked down in being able to shoot a static scene.
What's that? Many Hondas keep moving.
But with that film, what they did was make the 3D camera mobile. So it had a much greater sense of being right in the action.
After filming, the Digital Domain Studio created computer-generated special effects to give T2 3D a sense of futuristic realism.
Stop whining.
In addition, some sequences, like the climactic battle with the T-1000, were created entirely on the computer. At the same time, ride designers had to choreograph the on-screen action with the live stage show.
Get out of sight.
The attraction's 700-seat, 3-screen theater is the largest of its kind ever built. 6 specially designed projectors run over a mile of 70-millimeter film through the gates every 12 minutes.
This way.
But all of T2 3D's magic doesn't show up on the screen.
Now! Down.
Creating the immersive environment and keeping 3 shows running smoothly every hour is a massive production in itself.
Hi, I'm Mike Esmond, Project Manager for Universal Studios, Orlando, Florida, and this is the T2 3D attraction. Come on, let's go check it out. The robots combine a technology similar to biofeedback that they use in modern prosthetics to let the hydraulic system move fluidly without doing the awkwardness that earlier animated figures once had. So they're as lifelike as a robot can be. We're in the control room at the back of the theater where all the computers are tied in into one control panel that is supervised by a technician, mainly because of the live actors and their safety. The technician allows the computer to go to its next sequence. If the technician feels that there's an unsafe condition or the show is not progressing as originally scripted, that technician has the ability to abort the show.
I said I'd be back.
This particular screen, we're looking at a panel view that allows us to do a diagnostic evaluation of what's going on with the show action equipment, and if a particular function's not working or if it's not working up to what it normally should be, it allows the technical staff to fix it either on the spot or after the attraction closes. The audio system supports the 3D image by means of having the speakers located behind each one of the screens as well as above and behind us. So as the image moves on the screen, the audio also moves with the image. So you hear in 3D as well as see in 3D. It's so realistic with the 3D combined with the live action and all the other technology we've employed here that you sometimes forget you're in a movie seat.
I just saw that on YouTube today. I'm sorry, excuse me, at the Video Street Video Store. Right, Discovery Channel takes you behind the scenes of Terminator 2 3D. I remember seeing that as a young boy when I was probably about 12 or 13 years old, around the time it first came out. And I love Terminator. I was like, I want to go see that. Where can I get that? Can I go down to the Video Street Video Store? Is it in theaters? It's like, no, it's only at Universal Studios, Florida. And Oh man, that stuck in my craw. I was so mad about that. I wanted to see it so bad. I finally did get to see it in the last year that it was open, which I believe was in 2016. I went there. Or maybe, I think it maybe closed the next year because I was there late 2016. My wife and I went down there for our anniversary and went to Universal Studios Florida. Somehow I was there in 1999 and did not go to it for some reason. I don't know why. I was there with my actually my church youth group. We went to Universal Studios. Maybe we were banned from seeing it because it was like Terminator. I don't know. But welcome back to the Midnight Citizen Show. And yeah, you just came back. You took a trip down there to the Video Street Video Store. Keep in mind, once again, I'll say it again. I said I'd be back, right? That video is combined with other videos that I showed this week, as well as some other videos I put in there, into the Video Street Video Store, a regular weekly feature over at the Substack, where I show you the videos. I put them together in a nice little package, and then I do some write-ups on them, like my memories of them, some actual background information on them. It's been a fun thing. It's been keeping me busy every week, just writing them. It takes me about a day or so to write all those notes. So please head over there. I'm not asking for money or anything like that. Just subscribe, support everything I'm doing over here. That would be great of you. So there was this time in the 90s when we were just totally overblown, like blown away, right, by digital effects, by the idea of just, every behind-the-scenes featurette, like we just saw in Terminator 2 3D, would be about like, and then we put this into the wireframe, and then we converted this. We did it completely in computer, and we were just, what? Just blown away by that. And by about 1999, it just gets old. It's like, okay, so I guess you're going to do everything in a computer now? All right. So, it just was, it was a very, very depressing kind of transition, right? And now the magic, as many people have said, many people I know who work in film production, the magic is gone. I mean, there's just no mystery whatsoever anymore to how movies get made. The days of, people running out of the theater because they think like a passenger train is approaching them, they're all over, okay? And we just don't have that kind of magic anymore. But back in the 90s, I mean, honestly, I used to love watching Discovery Channel because they would have these specials on that would take you behind the scenes of movies. And they were still doing a lot of stunt work, a lot of live action, like in-camera stuff. It was really exciting to see. And then slowly the machines took over. Okay? Yeah, that was just kind of, it's a little depressing, but it's okay. We won't dwell on it. Okay? It's the Midnight Citizen Show. Before that, you saw a couple weeks ago, I showed a video of Super Dave Osborne doing stunts, and he is the brother of Albert Brooks, who I really should have shown. I love Super Dave Osborne, but Albert Brooks, I talked about a couple weeks ago, was always a major influence. I think not just influence on like what I do, but just my sense of humor, my general sense of humor. Just kind of that dry. I don't know. I love the dry and the wacky. You're kind of explaining things that are very wacky, but you're doing it in a very dry and straightforward way, as if that's the way it's supposed to be, right? And yeah, what you saw before the first video of the Video Street Video Store this week was one of Albert Brooks's original shorts that he did for Saturday Night Live, right? As everybody may know or may not know by now, that Albert Brooks was originally supposed to be the host, the permanent host of Saturday Night Live. It was supposed to be like a Johnny Carson figure, and he turned it down because he wanted to make movies. And so he made this deal with Lorne Michaels where he's like, I don't want to be a permanent member of the show. Just let me, give me some space every week to make a short film for you. So Lorne Michaels said yes. And so we have these, before Albert Brooks made like these American comedy classics, or like, Real Life or Lost in America or Defending Your Life. He made all these movies for Lorne Michaels. And that was one of them. That was like Albert Brooks kind of envisioning what is NBC's fall lineup going to look like. And he just did, it's just a parody, right, of the type of show that you might see at the time, right? Like medical, what was the first name? I can't remember. It was like a medical show, Doctors in Love, right? And then he did Black Vet, which is, like, I love that so much. It's just like the gimmick of the show. You know, every show has a gimmick. It's like, I'm a black man from Vietnam, and now I'm a veterinarian in a small southern town, right? And yeah, you talk about stuff from Saturday Night Live, like old school Saturday Night Live, and a lot of it does not hold up. A lot of it's like kind of embarrassing, and just like, it's like, you know, you picture your parents being like, we used to think this was the funniest thing, right? It's like my parents made me listen to one of Andy Griffith's old stand-up comedy specials. I respect the hell out of Andy Griffith, but that was some of the worst stuff I'd ever heard. But I laughed, you know, just to kind of, okay, you know. But yeah, that's what original Saturday Night Live is. I mean, it's just kind of lost all of its edge. It was so subversive and cutting edge at the time, but it's just... But I still think a lot of the Albert Brooks short films hold up. I think they're still funny. I think they still have relevance. Because I think he's just a brilliant guy. He's a brilliant comedian. He's one of my biggest influences. You know, you have to say, okay? Anyway, so yeah. That was the Video Street Video Store. Okay. And with that slow-moving guitar riff, I think I am going to call it a night here on the Midnight Citizen Show. Thank you so much for joining me. I have been your host, Mike Booty. And as you have heard, you can find me, everything that I do, over at mikesbonfire.substack.com. Check out the interview I did with Bob Lament over at Static Radio. Bob Lament has been doing internet radio before it was called podcasting. He's been doing an internet radio show, the same show called Static Radio, consistently, way more consistently than I have in my 14 years. He's been doing it now for 25 years. Back when we were still like, you know, oohing and awing at CG, computer generation. That's how long Bobbleman has been doing this show. And I joined, I think like somebody did a survey a while back. I think Static Radio is one of the fifth or sixth oldest internet radio shows still operating today. So it's amazing. So go and check him out. I'll put a link once again to the show in the show notes. Okay, and yeah. So stay here. I will again, if you're a subscriber, right? I'm going overtime, so you can kind of continue to catch me talking as I finish my whiskey, and you know, over at, if you're a subscriber over at the Substack, that's where you get to see it. Who knows how much more I may slur my words tonight. I'm not sure. But anyway, okay. All right. And I'm out. Thank you so much once again. I'll see you next week, next Saturday night. Keep your eyes open.